Okay, so as I mentioned in the class, I'm going to kind of break this next lab up into kind of two parts. So hopefully you're watching this before you get into class so you can kind of be ready. And I just want to kind of create the shell a little bit and just have you guys started with this so we can get into some of the stuff that we haven't talked about before. So the first thing we're going to do here is bring in our imports. So import Java x.swing, and one thing I'm going to do here for you is just make this a little bigger so it might be easier to see. So import .java.swing, we'll throw in our asterisk, and then here comes a few additional ones that we haven't really put in before, and we'll kind of talk about these as we get into the more complicated stuff. But basically this is going to be some of our audio stuff, so we're going to import audio input stream. And then we'll also import our java.io. Alright, so we may need a couple other additional imports, but I'll get to that later on when we get into the more important stuff. So now we have our imports. Again, let's just go ahead and create our public class, MyRadio, and that is going to extend the JPanel. And actually, I'm going to call mine MyRadio demo because I don't want to disrupt what I already have going on. So, and again, we'll kind of come in here and let's comment this out as the end of constructor, or end of class, end of MyRadio. All right. So once we're inside of there, the next thing we're going to do is again create our data fields. Let's just get this tabbed out right. And so I'm not going to do all of this right now. What I kind of want to do here is just kind of get into the pieces that we're going to need. We're going to need a panel. So we'll create some J panels. We're going to create some J labels. We are going to create some pictures, so we'll need an icon, and we're going to create some buttons, so we'll need JButton, and we'll need, this is a new one here, so we're going to create an object called a clip, and we'll need one for each of the songs, and we're also going to create a private audio stream, audio input stream. Alright, so again, these are all things that we're going to be creating, and you're going to kind of give me some names. So I'm going to kind of leave this off. I'll put some letters in here so that I can get it to compile properly. And you'll be doing more of this, and you can kind of think about if you can figure out how many of each of these you kind of need. And I'm skipping E because I'm going to use that later. So, and then of course these all need semicolons. This way it's going to compile for me. But you're gonna add more in here. All right. So if you can go ahead and do that before we get started, that's fine. So just kind of read through the instructions and figure out how many J panels you're going to need, how many labels you're going to need, how many icons, how many buttons, how many clips, how many input streams. All right. So once we have that, of course, the next thing we're going to do is create our constructor. So let's create constructor. And that's going to be public MyRadio. And again, this has to match exactly the class name. So the class name was MyRadio Demo. So my constructor needs to be MyRadio Demo. We're not going to have any parameters. So we'll just kind of come out there and we'll say this is the end of constructor. All right, so inside of here, we're going to start off, again, the first thing we're going to do here is set our layout. So set layout, and this is going to be the border layout as well. So new border layout. And the next thing we're going to do here is create a north panel. And I'm not going to go through all of this. What I want you to do is create a north panel with a title, right? So the only thing that this is supposed to have is a title. So north panel include a title. All right, so it's just going to be a title panel. So you're going to think about what size, what color, what font, right? And add all those things in there so we can kind of see what's going on in that title. All right. Once you've created the north panel, I want you to create a center panel. And in that center panel, it's just going to be kind of an image, right? So, and again, all three of these panels, we kind of want it to blend together as if it's one panel. So your background colors for all three, we kind of want to match up. But the center panel is just basically going to have a picture, all right? We just want some kind of picture. In the beginning, you know, it can be the theme of your radio station. It could be an image of you. It can be an image of just some general image that's going to represent the radio station itself, okay? And this is going to change later, right? So every time you play a different band, you should change the picture so that it indicates that the band is also changed. And then when you go back to default setting, it should revert back to your radio setting. All right, so center panel is just going to be a picture. So we're just going to include a picture for your radio station. And so that's really all you have to do right now, is just make sure there's at least a picture for your radio station. The next thing, the last panel that you're going to be creating is going to be the south panel. And the south panel, what we want that to have is to include, I would say, I want 4 buttons. And these 4 buttons includes 3 song buttons, at least 3 song buttons. You can do more if you like, and 1 stop button. All right, because I want you to be able to stop the music and just kind of default back to the off position. So you can call it a stop button, you can call it an off button, kind of whatever you want to do that can kind of operate it and make all the songs stop and default back to your old picture. All right, so within the south panel, again, you're going to create your buttons. All right, so and inside of that, you're going to try to attach a new picture. So have the buttons kind of adding new pictures, okay? Or at least associating pictures with those buttons. All right, and then the last thing that I want you to kind of do is once you have those panels out, then I kind of want you to kind of have this organized for for your buttons. So button 1, and then you could do button 2, button 3. So if you can kind of organize it in here like this, that would be great. All right. So once you have your kind of try to fill in all this stuff, I believe all of these things here, you should be able to complete, right? These are all, none of this stuff is new. When we're talking about setting the background, setting the font size, setting the font style, creating labels, none of that stuff is new. So you should be able to have all of this done and ready to go when we get started for next class. Kind of the new things we're gonna have will be in the constructor, but we're gonna have some new stuff out here in our listeners. So I do want you to create some new class listeners. So private class, and then you can call this, I'm just going to call it generic song 1. Listener. So again, you can throw in whatever you want into this so that it makes sense for what your songs are, right? So give it a name that kind of makes a little bit more sense. But inside of that, you're gonna kind of create your listener. And again, we're kind of doing that here, kind of showing you the general setup for listener, public void, action performed, and then we'll do action event E. And then inside of there is where all the action's happening, and you're kind of going to be making the song play, making the other song stop. All the action's going to be kind of in here. Make song start and stop. All right. And what we want stopping is the other songs. So all that's going to be happening in that listener. And then from there, you're going to do create a second button listener. And then I want you to create the third button listener. And then I want you to create your fourth button listener. All right, so once you have all four of those created, you could, if you'd like, there's not going to be too much else that I want you to do before this video starts, or I'm sorry, before the class starts. But I do want to kind of show you what we're doing and what we're going to be doing in class. So I'll go ahead and run MyRadio driver, and this is already set up for a program that I've already done. So you see here my title, the title of my radio station is the Scarlet and Gray. I got my image here, and then I got my 3 buttons for my 3 songs, and then I have a stop button that will make them stop. So if I play this, the picture changes, but if I hit stop, it goes back to the original screen. I come back to here, it's still playing. I can switch songs, and it's a different picture, right? So all three of them have different songs, different pictures, but again, I can stop it with the stop button, and that affects all 3 of them. Brings us back to the default stage. This is composed of 3 panels, although you can't really see it because the background colors have all kind of blended together. Using the same color is preferable. All right, so this is kind of what I want you to create, and yours probably are not going to be able to be functioning, but I would expect that you should be able to have the title, the picture, the buttons all created already as a shell. So I would expect that you should be able to run your program and get this first stage. I don't think you'll be able to play any songs. Maybe you can't even get your pictures to change by clicking on the buttons. That's okay. But if you can get to this shell, so that all we're kind of doing in class is talking about the mechanisms that allow us to play the audio clips, then we should have enough time to kind of get this stuff finished, and you guys can get it turned in on time. All right, so hopefully this was helpful for you. Hopefully you'll have this shell kind of created before class. All right, I will see you in class.